and welcome to the Health, Med and Technology Showcase. I know it's been a few weeks, so you've probably been missing me. So today we've got a special treat for the companies in which we're going to be showcasing today, but also the panel session that we're going to be hosting as well. Now, I always like to start this off as to explain why and why this is a sector. So obviously, there's a couple of things that go along with this. Firstly, we've been surveying our database and we've been watching the trends take place on the platform. This is the hottest area right now of interest to our shareholder base. Everything in the healthcare area and everything in the technology area is getting a lot of interest, right? So we obviously want to provide more access and want to provide more visibility for the companies participating. Secondly, this is actually a passion area of mine. In 2009, we were fortunate enough to work with a company called Cubotics. It was actually known as Ecobotics by then. They're basically the same company, but Ecobotics and Cubotics went on to basically get me addicted to this space. And obviously there's all sorts of macro trends and all that sort of stuff that I can go into as far as why it's important. But effectively, the healthcare area gets you addicted to it, right? For the fact that you realize that the right company, the right place, the right time can provide an incredible return, number one, but secondly, can actually impact millions of people's lives. And that's sort of what draws us to this space. So we've been fortunate enough. This year alone, we're seeing some incredible success stories come out of our previous clients and some of our current clients as well. So presenting today is one of my favorite people that we have the opportunity to work with. Dr. Leslie Chong is actually going to be presenting. She's actually on the panel session as well from Imugene. Also, we've got James Graham from Recce, who's also going to be presenting. You know, last time I gave the update, he was up 230% in the last 3 months. Watching him grow over the last few years and watching Recce start to really become a leader in the life science area in Australia has been something that I've really enjoyed observing. We're fortunate enough to work with some of his other family members, but watching James and watching that business evolve and now seeing the way that the markets are actually taking notice of the work that they're doing and also the results that they're achieving is very exciting for us as well. So they're also going to be presenting. To have funds on here as well that are also proactively investing into this space is also exciting for me. This is one of the greatest opportunities from a sector point of view that Australia has. For many, many years, Australia has led the way when it comes to research, when it comes to companies, and unfortunately, sometimes they're quite often undervalued on the public markets, but in the international markets, we're actually quite well respected in this area. So this is why I am so passionate about the life science, the healthcare, and the medtech space. So some other beautiful examples of success stories was Atomo Diagnostics, one of the first companies to list on the ASX after COVID hit, and they've obviously done very well. They've done well right in the lead up to that, right up until their successful ASX listing. 4DX has been another incredible story for us as well. I highly recommend you Google them. We've worked with that company from the seed stage right through to now where they're actually eyeing an ASX listing as well. We are very fortunate at Wholesale Investor that we work some incredible companies well before the market gets to know about them and well before the general public will ever hear about the innovation that they're actually working with. So that's my start as to why. Now, obviously there's going to be a lot of great companies that are presenting today. We've got 7 different opportunities lined up for you, ranging across the different areas from medtech to obviously fund opportunities, but also in the life science space as well and in the general healthcare space. As I said, what I love most about this area is that it has the potential to impact millions of people's lives, but from the investor side, we all know the stories that life science can have as far as the potential returns that it can provide from an investor's perspective. Now, with the way we've set up the showcase, as with every other one, it's really simple for you to engage via CRISP. The first step you need to do before anything is go and register with CRISP, right? You're actually on the page right now looking at it. Register, create your own account, and then go and engage directly with the company. Request access to their deal rooms, ask them questions, or request on the WI site. We could not have made it any easier for you to engage. What inspires founders the most is when they're presenting in these showcases, and what gets them excited is when they're presenting and then people are engaging directly with them. So first step, create an account. Literally one click, log in with Google or log in with your LinkedIn account and you'll be able to have access to it. And then you'll be able to engage directly with the companies via the CRISP platform. Okay, so engaging via CRISP is an important part of this. The next step is how we build our ecosystem. You know this already, we've mentioned it quite a few times. If you're new to Wholesale Investor and new to CRISP, how we actually grow is via word of mouth. We've now built a 30,000 ecosystem across Australia, Singapore, and the UK, and we've been able to do that through word of mouth. It's amazing the power that it has in this space, and every single month, week in, week out, we are doing everything we can to grow this space. We work day and night, and we make it our mission to create cross-border opportunities, investment opportunities. Also, we can just deliver it directly to you on your laptop, on your home screen, wherever you may be. We will do everything possible to make it as simple as possible, so then it's over to you to engage directly. Now, the other thing that we're doing is we want to know that you want to hear what other investors are thinking. So we've created an incredible panel session, right, that covers the investment perspectives across Australia, Singapore, and also the US. And in that session, we've got the moderator, which is Glenn Cross, who used to be the COO of Oz Biotech, asking in-depth questions for the investors as far as what they're looking at, what they're focusing on, how their portfolio has been impacted, what's been the upside that's been created by the market opportunity as well. Literally could not have done a better job to give you a perspective from different countries, from one of the most respected leaders in this area as well. So, incredible session lined up for you. We're making everything as simple as possible for you to engage, but also for you to learn as much as possible. So once again, I'd like to say a big thank you to the panelists. Hsien-Hui from Singapore, who works with SGInnovate, one of the leading VCs in Singapore. So to have him participate in the panel session, I was very enthusiastic. Joseph Mercado, who are also going to see presenting as well. Dr. Leslie Chong, I said, one of the most impressive people we have the opportunity to work with, and watching how she's worked with Imugene. And then Damien from Kobold Ventures said, another passionate investor working in the life science space. So, incredible session lined up. I'm going to now hand it over to our host, Isabella, who's going to be introducing the first companies for the day. Enjoy the Health, Med and Technology Showcase.
Our first presentation today is from Kobold Ventures. This fund is bringing wholesale investors a unique opportunity to invest in Australian early-stage life science companies. The team of experienced managers have taken on and progressed investments among these specific stages in the past, and today, Managing Director Dr. Damien Slozzies will be discussing this further.
Hello, my name is Damien Slozzies. I'm the Managing Director of Kobold Ventures, and this presentation is about our request for expressions of interest in our early stage life sciences fund. Here's a series of disclaimers in relation to the presentation. This slide details the origin of the name Kobold and why we think it's appropriate for the fund. Who we are. We're an investment manager that oversees investments in early stage Australian life sciences companies. We have a particular focus on therapeutic products. So, for example, new pharmaceuticals or drugs for treatment of diseases such as cancer. And in the present environment, obviously antivirals are of interest as well. Our strategy is to build a portfolio of early stage assets which have good science and a strong patent position, together with effective management. And our competitive advantage is in our ability to assess and advise on an investee company's patent position. Why invest in early stage life sciences? So life sciences companies are obviously focused on finding solutions to health-related problems. And as a consequence, there's enormous social benefits that are potentially provided by investing in these companies. And as well, they also provide excellent returns. An example of a potential investment return is a private investment that I've made in Recce Pharmaceuticals. This is a company that uses radioisotopes to image and treat cancers, such as prostate cancer. The company is now worth about an 8 times multiple from its initial pre-IPO investment, and that occurred over a period of 4 or 5 years. So you can see that the returns are substantial in the right circumstances. It's important to understand how a fund like this will make a return on investment, and I think it's best illustrated by a diagram. The drug development process is a staged one with a number of regulatory milestones or hurdles that must be satisfied before a drug can be approved and then marketed. Revenue is only generated once the drug is marketed, but at each stage of the process, the company increases in value as the risk involved in bringing the drug to market is reduced. And a company can exit at any stage in that process, often by an exit or a license to a pharmaceutical company. In the early stages, the only asset that the company has is its intellectual property or patent position. So you can see that this underpins the value of the company. So good science and patenting and patent positioning are key. Good science, of course, so the asset will have the desired therapeutic effect, and a good patent position so the company has a value that is enforceable. Problems with investing in this asset class. Well, at an early stage, it's very, very difficult to assess a company's patent position with any degree of sophistication because of the costs involved in doing so. And we believe our particular patent expertise allows us to mitigate that risk. There's a high risk of failure over the course of the regulatory pathway, which is unavoidable. Many drugs don't make it to market. And this is mitigated by taking a portfolio approach in the fund rather than a simple investment in a particular company. There are also, for unsophisticated investors in this space, a lack of access to suitable opportunities. And we believe that is mitigated by our access to opportunities through our networks. Each of the team is widely experienced in the pharmaceutical space, and we have many networks in that space. What sets us apart? Well, as I've discussed previously, it's our competitive advantage in intellectual property and patent protection. I personally have had a long career as a patent attorney. I've been a patent attorney for 20 years and was most recently an equity partner in a patent attorney firm. I've transitioned that expertise into successful investments in early stage life science companies, using my understanding of the sciences and of intellectual property protection. We also have a well-regarded and experienced team comprised of an advisory board and investment committee, as well as management, all of which have expertise in particular fields relevant to this space, such as drug discovery and development and managing early stage seed capital funds. Here's an illustration of the team. If you want further details, please check out our data room. And the other aspect is that we believe that we have access to an abundance of opportunities in this space through these networks that my team has developed. We also have a number of strategic partnerships. The strategic partnerships are formed for a number of reasons. I've illustrated two in this slide. Synthesis Pharm is a medicinal chemistry services provider that incubates small companies, and they provide us with suitable investment candidates. Synthesis Pharm is not the only group that does this, but they're one of them. Satara US is a global consulting organisation specialising in regulatory strategy, and they help us assess the regulatory strategy of our companies. Even if the company is exiting early from the drug discovery pathway, it's useful that they have the marketing of that drug in mind when they're developing their milestone requirements. The fund term is proposed to be from a 10 plus 2 year term. It's a closed fund. This is because of the long time frames involved in developing drugs. There's a cap of Australian 40 million, but we can begin investing at a first close of Australian 5 million. The capital is on call. It doesn't need to be invested at once. It's only called when an investment opportunity arises. We already have a number of potential investee companies in the cancer therapeutics and anti-addiction space, and we're looking for more right now. We believe Kobold Ventures provides you with a ticket to an otherwise inaccessible asset class with social benefits and opportunities, and also a potential for very high returns. And the following information provides an overview of the fund and the key terms of it. Thank you very much. Our data room access is found in the detail below on your screen.
Thanks, Damien. Up next to present is LiVac, a commercial stage surgical device company focused on development and commercialization of said devices with the objectives of improving surgery and patient outcomes. Here to discuss this unique opportunity further is CEO Dr. Annabella Correa.
LiVac is an award-winning Australian medical device company founded by a leading surgeon. The company is developing patented surgical products that facilitate minimally invasive surgery, improve patient outcomes, and reduce healthcare costs. Our lead product, the LiVac retractor, includes a silicone ring attached to suction tubing. The device is positioned between the patient liver and diaphragm and enters the patient via an existing port incision. The LiVac retractor gently retracts solid organs such as the liver and minimises organ damage. All upper abdominal surgery requires liver retraction to enable access to the surgical field. The LiVac retractor has achieved early sales with distributors appointed in Australia, Europe, Asia and the US. Published in high-impact medical journals, strong IP position with international patents granted, global regulatory approvals in all major markets, and currently preparing for US market entry. LiVac's second product is the LiVac Sling. It is a static retractor with applications in broad surgical markets and is ready for development. The Nathanson retractor is the most commonly used surgical retractor. It is a curved metal hook that requires its own incision. It is positioned under the liver and pushes the liver up against the diaphragm, compressing blood supply during surgery. There are many reports of liver injury due to this type of retractor. The additional trauma caused by metal retractors increases pain and post-operative pain medication and increases patient length of stay and healthcare costs. A leading US surgeon has said, as surgery has become less invasive, liver retraction has become more brutal, indicating this type of invasive retraction is outdated. The LiVac retractor is the only device in the world that is able to gently retract solid organs from above. It has been used more than 1,000 times worldwide, with no device-related complications. It is a single-use disposable device. It supports all surgical techniques, and importantly, we've shown and published that our patients leave hospital one day sooner. LiVac has a proven value proposition with improved patient outcomes, a modest learning curve, and importantly, reduced overall healthcare costs. We have a proven and scalable sales conversion model. We work closely with key surgeons who we train across 6 to 10 procedures before approaching hospital procurement. Once approved, a surgeon will use the device up to 400 times a year. Importantly, our commercial pathway does not require reimbursement. We have proven our sales conversion journey both domestically in Australia and also overseas in Italy. LiVac is currently working to scale this model in major markets around the world, including Germany, Korea and the US. LiVac outsources its manufacturing. We then wholesale our device to distributors around the world. Those distributors add their own in-territory margin, and we continue to support them with established and ongoing training. Our overall global market opportunity is more than $2.4 billion per annum. This is based on 12 million operations every year that require liver retraction. In addition to bariatrics and gallbladder surgery, clinical experience for the LiVac retractor has already commenced in new markets, including robotics, urology, paediatrics, and splenectomy. Half of the world's bariatric procedures are performed in the US, where there are also 1.2 million gallbladders removed every year. Healthcare costs can be greatly reduced with shorter length of stay, as we have published with the LiVac retractor. Assuming that we continue to work with only our existing markets and that 20% of those markets adopt our technology, we have a genuine opportunity to achieve sales of $80 million per annum. LiVac has conducted significant market due diligence in the US. We've identified and already met with key surgeons, hospitals, global distributors and investors. We've recently appointed our first distributor in this market, and we are working to achieve sales in 2 to 3 states in the US before approaching high-value healthcare centres, which comprise 10 to 30 hospitals. Once approved for sale within one hospital, then the LiVac retractor will immediately become available for sale across that entire hospital network. LiVac has worked closely with US advisors to develop a detailed US market entry plan, which is available in our data room. We have a very strong understanding of the key milestones and timelines required to enter the US market, and will execute this plan in parallel while continuing to grow our existing distributorships. We are working towards a meaningful market exit for our investors within 3 to 5 years, and are already in discussions with potential strategic exit partners. The majority of our board and management team has already delivered new products to foreign markets and is very experienced in doing so. LiVac, the company, has raised its funds to date from friends and family, angel networks and high net worths. Today, the company is raising $4 million. The majority of these funds will be invested in the execution of our US market plan. Successful execution of this plan forecasts a break-even point for the company in 2023. At this point, we expect our US sales to increase to more than 50% of LiVac's total worldwide sales. LiVac, as an innovative Australian company, has achieved so much. It has a proven technology with proven value proposition and strong market need. We have a proven and scalable sales conversion model, and we are seeking strategic investors to come on this journey with us as we prepare to leverage our extensive experience to enter the US and world's largest surgical devices market. Thank you.
Thank you, Annabella. Our next presenter today is Captixbio, a pioneering company developing innovative medical technologies to optimize the therapeutic impact of cell therapies. This truly innovative treatment strategy has proven its competitiveness by addressing the limitation of existing strategies for treating type 1 diabetes. Here to discuss this further is CEO Helen Ray.
Hello, I'm Helen Ray, CEO of Captixbio. I'd like to talk to you today about investing in our work to cure type 1 diabetes. Diabetes is a huge global problem, growing each year and costing health systems more than $800 billion. Type 1 diabetes counts for 5 to 10% of all diabetes, and it's a lifelong autoimmune disease treated by insulin injection, without which it could be fatal. Captixbio is delivering a cross-disciplinary implantable solution aiming to make cell therapy a mainstream therapy for all of those with type 1. Captixbio was founded in 2018 by orthopaedic surgeon Dr. Michael McAuliffe. Michael has first-hand understanding of the problems of living with type 1 after his own daughter was diagnosed at the age of 14. With pre-seed funding from a supportive investor, Captixbio has built a collaborative network of Australian-based, globally recognised researchers, all focused on delivering this cure. The type 1 problem is huge. From a clinical point of view, there's more than 18 million people living with type 1 globally. 95% of them are adults. 75% of those adults do not meet their blood sugar control targets. 20% with type 1 have one or more severe hypoglycemic events each year, and more than 50% experience serious complications. All of this adds up to a global cost burden in excess of $90 billion. And donor islet transplant, the most effective form of cell therapy for type 1, is still only available to a very, very small number of people with high-risk brittle diabetes. The technical problem has also been significant, but we've sought the best solution that takes into account finding an effective implant site, the use of physical immunoprotection rather than pharmaceutical immunoprotection, access to an effective oxygen supply to maintain cell function, and a reliable and available cell source. So what does a cure for type 1 diabetes look like? According to our research, it comes without finger pricks, injections, gadgets, hypos, and carb counting. It is okay if it comes with the occasional doctor's visit and an operation or two, but it must deliver a lifespan close to normal, and it must not trade one lot of drugs for another. This is the cure Captixbio is targeting and believes Imiter can deliver. And so this is our solution. The Imiter device is an implant that is set into a highly vascularized implant site with a long history of accommodating implants. The implant design ensures an optimized microenvironment before the first islet infusion. It's a minimally invasive access for any islet top-ups and is a highly oxygenated site. The IMP membrane, the immunoprotective membrane, provides a physical protection barrier, removing the need for pharmaceutical immunosuppression. It's biocompatible, biostable, and selectively porous at the microscale, ensuring islets survive and function as normal. And our device is designed to accommodate alternative cell sources from human and xeno supply. So why do we think that this will work? There's evidence from more than 1,000 cases of donor islet implantation that's demonstrated that cell-based therapy delivers more effective control of blood glucose than electronic systems. We remove the need for pharmaceutical immunosuppression, which is what will make Imiter appealing to many clinical diabetes specialists and to their patients. We can optimize the site with a permanent implant. We have a novel implant design, an alternative cell supply that uses xeno islets closely matched to humans, ensures more patients can be treated and that glucose control is effective. So what does the competitor landscape look like? We know that we're not alone in seeking a strategy to cure type 1. But the first attempts at using physical encapsulation systems started back in the 1980s. And despite significant investment over the years, no one has achieved a sustained insulin-independent outcome without immunosuppression. However, no one has taken advantage of this implantation site in this way, and we believe that that is why we can succeed where others have not. The market size estimates vary considerably, but there is somewhere between 18 million and 46 million prevalent cases of type 1 diabetes, and the incidence rates are growing by 3% each year. 20% of that population constitutes our target indication, which is people who experience severe hypoglycemic events. The introduction of islet transplantation more than 20 years ago has meant that there's a number of established clinical sites that are centres of excellence around the world, and we already know who they are and where they are, and they already have the interest, capability and will to deliver cell therapy for type 1. This group of centres are our first target market, and they represent the lowest barrier to entry, and they will have Imiter candidates waiting. We anticipate that using those centres will be able to address a patient market of around 4,000 patients per year by year 4 post-launch, and that generates revenue potential in excess of $100 million. In addition to this framework to treat type 1, We're also looking at supplementary indications where diabetes is associated with orphan indications in areas such as chronic pancreatitis and cystic fibrosis, where there may be expedited regulatory pathways and early revenues achievable. Our strategic plan is to collaborate where we can, innovate where we can't, deliver what we promise, and ultimately to cure type 1. We actively seek non-dilutive funding opportunities to maximise the benefit of every dollar invested. Captixbio currently meets the qualification requirements of the ATO as an early stage investment company, and so an investor may be able to take advantage of that opportunity as well. We have a clearly defined IP strategy, and that constitutes a mix of patents, trademarks, trade secrets, and registered designs to ensure we secure and retain the exclusive rights to make and sell our products. The program overview that we have here is based on a clearly defined plan to go through the final stages of our R&D, enter into our preclinical trials, and prepare for clinical trials and product launch in early 2026. So our ask, we're seeking support to finalise our membrane development with CSIRO, plan for pilot manufacturing, and undertake our preclinical programs. We're seeking $2.5 million in capital from sophisticated investors in this seed round in exchange for 30% equity in Captixbio Medical. This is based on a pre-raise valuation of $6 million, and that valuation is available to look at if you would like to have further discussions. Our use of funds means that we'll spend 70% of the money provided to us on our research, development, and preclinical studies and pilot manufacturing. The other 30% will be spent on developing a marketing communication strategy to ensure we develop close relationships with the clinicians at the 40 centres of excellence for islet transplantation around the world, ensure that our clinical trial planning meets regulatory and reimbursement requirements, and we're ready to move into clinical trials at the conclusion of our preclinical work, and 10% will go on standard operating expenses. We have a small but dedicated team at Captixbio. Our board is made up of Dr. Michael McAuliffe, our founder and chairman, myself, and Mr. Glenn Cross, who is a non-executive director with more than 40 years experience in this industry, and most recently, 13 years at AusBiotech. Dr. Miller Collins is our R&D projects director. Miller takes responsibility for our in-house R&D and as well manages all of our research programs with our external collaborators. We're also very lucky to have Dr. Tamla Devaris on our scientific advisory panel. Tom has a lifetime of experience in trying to develop islet isolation and delivery strategies for type 1. We also have Professor Minghao Zheng from the University of Western Australia and Brad Sheehan, who is the General Manager of Avania in Australia Pacific, who has more than 20 years experience in the design and execution of clinical trials for regulatory and reimbursement purposes. And so why should you invest in us? We're working towards serving a large, growing and underserviced market where the technology component alone is valued at more than $20 billion. We have a clear development plan intended to de-risk and add value to this novel protectable device. We have well-defined market entry points where there's established clinical expertise across those 40 key centres around the world. We do have asset qualifications, and funding, cash funding with us generates opportunities to access non-dilutive funding to enhance return on investment. It's also an opportunity to participate in a pioneering company that's intent on transforming lives. Thank you for your time and attention. To discuss this further, please click on the link to our deal room and CRISP.
Thanks, Helen. Presenting next today is Imugene, a clinical stage immuno-oncology company developing a range of new treatments that seek to activate the immune system of cancer patients in an effort to identify and eradicate tumours. This opportunity is combined with robust intellectual property protections and a well-experienced team. Here to talk further about this is CEO and Managing Director Leslie Chong.
Hello, my name is Leslie Chong, and I am proud to present Imugene, which is a biotech company developing cancer immunotherapies. My disclaimer. So some of the investment highlights for us is that we have two novel technologies. We have an oncolytic viral therapy called CF33. We also have a B-cell immunotherapy. Both really invokes your immunity to fight against your own cancer. So it's a beautiful two products. Our oncolytic viral therapy comes from City of Hope Cancer Center out of Los Angeles. It has demonstrated not only just monotherapy, but we're living in the age of combination where cancer therapies require a little bit more boost. So we saw some gorgeous data in the combination as well. It had a prolific and compelling preclinical data that I'll show you. And luckily for us, the manufacturing is already complete. We have an extremely experienced management team that are ex-Viralytics. For those of you who may not know, Viralytics was a biotech company out of Australia that sold to Merck for $500 million, $500 million. And we also have a B-cell technology recruiting already in a phase 2. And also phase 1 for PD-1 vaccines, an anti-PD-1. It's likely one of the most famous checkpoint inhibitors out there, Keytruda and Opdivo, and we have a like product that could be a gentler, kinder anti-PD-1. All our products have a robust IP going out to 2037, and I'll show you the significant news flow and the multiple and near medium-term value inflections. So as I said, we have two products here, two platforms, CF33, the oncolytic viral therapy, as well as the B-cell vaccine with two programs coming off of each. And our lifelong, long life patent going out to 2037 there across all our programs. And we have an extremely extensively experienced board member, Dr. Axel Hoos is a senior vice president of GSK, clinical lead of the first checkpoint inhibitors to be produced by BMS. We have Dr. Jens Eichstein, who is the former president of SR1. That was the venture capital arm of GSK. And we are all led by Mr. Paul Hopper, who's our executive chairman, who was the former chairman of Viralytics. So in a short way, I'll show you how an oncolytic virus works. The virus infiltrates into the cancer cells. It only infiltrates into those particular cancer cells. It multiplies at an accelerated rate. It implodes the tumor cells and then enacts your immune system as well. So that's the beauty of an oncolytic viral therapy. And when we compared it to other oncolytic therapies out there that are in the clinic, if you look at this pancreatic cancer graph, you'll see that the orange is all about CF33 suppressing the cancer cells more than the other therapies, as compared to in the xenograft model here, in a colon line, you'll see that, again, if you follow the orange line, CF33, the suppression was much more severe and much more faster than the compared oncolytic viral therapy, and even in the non-injected tumors. So it has an abscopal effect where it travels to the tumor cells without the direct injection. So one of our first clinical trials will be in triple-negative breast cancer. This is one of the deadliest breast cancer. And you can see here, even at such a low dose, we're at 2 to 5 orders of magnitude lower than doses used for other oncolytic viral therapy. And you see that complete tumor suppression. And so we've taken this particular therapy known as CheckVac because it has our oncolytic viral therapy CF33, as well as an anti-PD-L1, which is a checkpoint inhibitor, transgene into it, such that it gives a payload directly to the cancer cells. So we have a dose escalation pathway where we move up and find that dose that's safe, immunogenic, as well as seeing some level of target or tumor responses, and we'll go right into an expansion with that. And that will be conducted at City of Hope, Los Angeles. We also have an incredibly vast phase 1 study where we're going to look at vaccinia, the core parental virus, in an intratumoral administration and an intravenous. There's no oncolytic viral therapy that has been known to work intravenously, but we think because we have such a powerful oncolytic viral therapy that we think we can go in here. So we're looking at an IT, the intratumoral dose escalation, as well as intravenous dose escalation. Once we find the safe dose, we'll go right into a combination of standard of care. So combining with a checkpoint inhibitor, and we're looking across head and neck cancers, melanoma, triple negative, lung, bladder, gastric, colorectal, renal cells, so vast amount of indications. And if you were to look at the landscape of recent oncolytic viral therapy transaction, you could see as early as 2019, a preclinical product that hasn't even been in the clinic garnered 1.2 billion in value in a deal. So this is a fairly hot space, and as I said, Viralytics with Merck at 394 million USD, which translated into well over 500 million. So I'll just quickly go into my B-cell immunotherapy. This therapy is an anti-HER2. It's prolific in breast cancer as well as gastric. So we target the receptors that plague this particular disease, and it's called HER2. So we've completed a phase 1 already, and we're currently in phase 2. And if you look at the phase 1, the data that we received, this is called a waterfall plot. This shows how much your tumor has been suppressed or decreased. And so we had a complete response, meaning no residual tumors left, 5 partial responder, 4 stable disease, and 1 progressive disease. So it's pretty profound in terms of a phase 1. And we're currently in phase 2. We had an interim data safety review, and the reviewers, the independent data monitoring committee consisting of immunotherapists as well as statisticians, told us to continue on with this very important study. They deemed it safe and hopefully effective, so we have continued on. We like the idea of a B-cell creating your own drug against the cancer, and so in this case, it's a PD-1. PD-1 is possibly one of the most famous and prolific checkpoint inhibitors out there, like Keytruda or Opdivo. They garner $10 billion a year in sales, and we have a product that is created by your B cells, and it's a polyclonal effect of suppressing that PD-1 so that your immunity can actually see the cancer and come and get it. So we have designed a dose escalation study, and as soon as we find a safety, immunogenetic, and also see some target or tumor responses, we'll go right into, yet again, a combination, because combination is the name of the game. So that study will start very soon. And if you look at this particular multiple near and medium term valuation inflection points chart, you can see it's chock full. So I've got my hands full with trying to deliver on these. And we've got multiple shots on goal here with several value inflection points and milestones. So that's the end of my presentation. You can find more information at the CRISPR Deal Room or contact me directly at leslie.chong@imugene.com. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Leslie. Recce Pharmaceuticals is our next presenter. Recce is pioneering the development and commercialization of a new class of synthetic antibiotics designed to address the increasingly urgent global health problem of antibiotic-resistant superbugs. Here to talk further about this is Director James Graham.
Hi, I'm James Graham, Executive Director of Recce Pharmaceuticals Limited. So Recce is commercialising a new class of broad-spectrum antibiotic. It's a new class as it's able to kill gram-positive, gram-negative bacteria and their superbug forms with exactly the same ease with repeated use. Our lead indication is focused on sepsis, septicemia or blood poisoning. It's the #1 most expensive condition treated, double the second most. We have a qualified infectious disease designation awarded by the US FDA. That allows us 10 years of market exclusivity, starting only from time of approval, plus fast track regulatory designation all the way to there. To my knowledge, we're the only company in the world with that QIDP designation for bacteremia or sepsis. So it really facilitates our development going forwards. Our capital structure, Dr. Graham Melrose is former head of Johnson & Johnson Research, executive director of their board of a decade, and he's a chemist by trade. So he's the inventor of our technology and major shareholder. I'm there at number 3. I've invested, well, actually I was the first investor and invested in all capital rounds to date, about $150,000 over the last 12 months. And we have a series of institutional investors, typically hidden behind nominee accounts. We're currently trading at about 75 cents, which is just over 100 million market cap. We've got a good cash position with 4 million here and a little less than that, given that was a historical. And we anticipate another $3 million coming from the R&D rebate of the Australian government in the next couple of months. Good trading range, good trade volume, no debt, wholly own our technology, and set up to tackle opportunities as they present. Our opportunities, really, we look at it from a clinical perspective. We're focused on infectious diseases. We always have been, we always will be. Our primary focus is intravascular applications, so full-blown sepsis, but also pre-sepsis models such as an early UTI infection or a kidney infection, meaning that we can seek to tackle that whole infectious disease mold. And we're right at the end of the preclinical phase, about to start in humans. Our second category, which is also at the end of the preclinicals, is our topical administration. So as a spray-on topical solution, able to treat skin infections, burns, wound infections, and assisting in wound closure when they're challenged by bacterial loads on the outside of those wounds. Longer the wound is open, the more complications. We're also rapidly exploring our viral applications, and in the world of infectious diseases at this moment with COVID, that's a big opportunity, and I'd anticipate there'll be some further disclosures around our antiviral applications in due course. As a technology, we have wonderful capability against other applications, oral for Helicobacter pylori, gonorrhea, by example, a major STD or STI, and I think as an infectious disease business with multiple shots on goal, it's a wonderful time to be in business. Why are we different? Well, we talked earlier about a new class of antibiotic. That's because all classes to date are natural. They're bacteria or they're fungi. You find it in nature at the deepest of caves. Somebody said yesterday they found one in their garden. You cultivate it out and you use it as an antibiotic. The problem is when you've got the antibiotic and you've got the bacteria, that specific lock and key fit that nature has provided no longer works because those bacteria mutate to survive. They always have and they always will. Ours is designed from first principles. It's got a unique mechanism of action, which means it interacts with that bacteria regardless of how it mutates, meaning we're able to work with repeated use, something existing antibiotics can no longer do. We are synthetic, as in we are designed with what we want, not reliant on what's given to us in nature. And that means we have all the pros without the cons of what's given to us, and extraordinary economies when it comes to manufacture. None of that expensive cultivation, none of that toxic waste material, 100% yield in our products. This seeks to be the first new class in over 30 years. Our primary focus is sepsis. It's a major patient population, double the most expensive condition treated, and as an unmet medical need, 1 in 5 or 1 in 3 in hospitals in fact die, typically in the first 24 hours, because there's no treatment specifically for sepsis at this moment. We're about to start on a phase 1 human study here in Australia. It's a healthy study or a study to assess dosing in healthy human patients. 40 persons, costs about $1.4 million. We've got a good cash position to achieve that. And we anticipate first human data coming in the second half of this calendar year, which we're rapidly coming into. This is a snapshot of curative versus preventative. We've shown with MRSA superbug, by example, we outperform the best antibiotic, which is oxacillin in that space. Of course, the tip there is oxacillin, if it was any type of bacteria other than the MRSA, would not work. And at a clinical level, that guesswork is the challenge that they have. We work against all. And on the preventative, of course, seeking to prevent infections ever taking place. The quicker you can have patients in and out after a basic surgery, a knee operation or similar, the better the patient outcome and the less stress on the economy as we know it. Safety studies, we've got a fantastic safety dosing window, somewhere between 10 to 80-fold, depending on the animal species. This is another example in dogs. Here's an example of the pre-sepsis models showing that we can get on top of the UTI infection or kidney infection, ultimately treating both sepsis or the pre-sepsis form to be that infectious disease drug that could be administered on first patient presentation. This is looking at wounds, particularly burns wounds, and this is assisting in reducing that bacterial burden. If we then look at if we look at the previous page where we see wound concentration, in both instances, reducing the infection count, outperform the existing, closing the infection more quickly, outperform the existing. That gives rise to a good drug. Influenza, of course, is a major antiviral challenge at this moment. The reason we chose influenza is it has the closest RNA profile to coronavirus itself, and at 4 days we had a BLOQ, or below limit of quantification. Keep it simple, I think it was a cure. We kill at practical speeds. We don't care how those bacteria mutate. We don't care how the viruses mutate either. We continue to work with repeated use. We don't succumb to that bacterial or viral mutation. An example of it working in E. coli cells, after 20 minutes of exposure, they're no longer that balloon-like viable cell. We have a good patent position. We're granted out to November 2035, manufacturing, curative, preventative, and viral. We wholly own our manufacturing. This is in Sydney's Macquarie Park. We're currently producing to support our phase 1 and phase 2 human clinical purposes. And we're really positioned well. We've got an infectious disease crisis around us. We're an infectious disease company. We have a good position, a cash position to tackle the opportunities that infectious disease crisis represents. And we're steadily at a clinical stage, or steadily moving into a clinical stage, where I anticipate clinical readouts in the near term. Thank you for listening. I'm James Graham at Recce Pharmaceuticals Limited.
Thank you, James. Our next presenter today is Health Food Symmetry, who have recently acquired the assets of KFSU. KFSU produces a university-researched and proven gut and microbiome support product named K-Fiber. With 20% per month increases in sales, established distributors, and an emerging global footprint, here to discuss this further is CEO Gordon Edwards.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for giving me this opportunity to present Health Food Symmetry as an investment opportunity into the health and wellness markets. Health Food Symmetry was incorporated to acquire the assets of KFSU Limited as a going concern and at a considerable discount to the capital amount expended to date and its previous IPO valuation. And KFSU produces K-Fiber, a university-backed, research, proven gut and microbiome product, and we sell into the fastest growing wellness markets currently in the world, which is the global gut health and microbiome support markets. HFS has a unique product and growth sales of 20% per month with established distributors and an emerging global footprint with high compounding percentage of repeat customers. So we will be offering 7.5 million shares at a subscription price of 20 cents through a private placement to professional and sophisticated investors. This will give 35% of HFS at a valuation of 4.4 million Australian dollars. The spend to date on KFSU has been $15 million for product development, IP, marketing and plant and equipment. And the pre-IPO price, or the pre-IPO valuation for KFSU was $16 million. So this is a considerable discount. Investor subscription funds will be placed in a trust account until the final purchase, and if the final purchase does not proceed, your funds will be refunded in full. We have a strong debt-free balance sheet and focused marketing and sales strategy to capitalise on established distribution relationships. GoVita, one of Australia's, if not Australia's largest retail health food group, is coming on board as a distributor for K-Fibre in July 2020. Our original distribution agreements into Canada still hold, and we've had our first shipment go out to them. As well as that, we have greater than 10 months worth of sales inventory in stock. We're debt free and we have cash in the bank. 1 in 7 people on this planet suffer from IBS, and KFSU's K-Fibre is the only complex dietary fibre in the world that is low FODMAP accredited for IBS patients. HFS has engaged with established distributors for white label opportunities, both in the Philippines and in Europe. Our stock on hand is valued at $1.5 million at point of sale, and obviously there is a greater awareness of health and wellness due to the COVID-19 crisis. We have a pattern of repeat purchases by clients, and the state-of-the-art processing equipment valued, currently replacement value at $6.2 million. Skilled management in place that know what they're doing, and we have a globally unique and patent-protected product. Good research, and a greatly expanding marketing campaign through TV, print and social media. So let me introduce you to the factory, and once you've had our tour, I'll come back out the other side and continue our discussion. Now I'd like to talk to you about some of our research focus. We currently have clinical 2 trials that are finalised and peer-reviewed and published in Nutrition magazine, and we have a full US patent for dietary fibre supplement for the treatment of acid reflux and gastroesophageal reflux disease. Inflammatory bowel disease, IBS and IBD treatment, we have a set of trials finished with that, and we have a peer-reviewed publication in Nutrition magazine. As well, we have taken the step of ensuring that these trials are patented, and we're now at the PCT patent stage for that. We are aimed squarely at the gut health and microbiome market, and as a complex dietary fibre, we produce short-chain fatty acids which help the microbiome, help balance it, feed, nourish it. So we have a full set of trials with the University of Queensland, which have also been peer-reviewed and are in the International Journal of Food Science and Technology. And the research just shows that we ferment all the way through the colon, and that we actually ferment at a better and more consistent rate than pretty well any product on the planet. Phytonutrients, polycosanols, antioxidants. As a complex dietary fibre, K-Fibre has a lot going for it. We've got a range of compounds, we've got more antioxidants than green tea, and we're currently in the process of stripping down all of our compounds so that they can use that both in research and also in marketing. For instance, the claim 1 serve of K-Fibre has more antioxidants than green tea. It's just a great marketing story. We've done a 90-patient weight loss trial, which shows that K-Fibre works between 70 and 56% better than not using the product. These trials show that we are as good as, if not better than, any of the drugs or pharmacy products that are on the market, and we're just 100% natural. Here are some of our research partners. The University of Tasmania, obviously, is our primary research partner. The University of Queensland is our secondary research partner. Some very, very clever people there. And we're utilising their research, their information, their knowledge, and our marketing to really push K-Fibre with a very good science background. Sales and path to break even. We bought KFSU in March. Our sales, as previously mentioned, are growing at 20% per month, and that doesn't include GoVita, the Canadian opportunity, any of the other on-selling opportunities or wholesale. That is just straight. Some of the on-sellers we have, pharmacies, clinics, and health food stores and web sales. So we will be at break-even point in September of 2020. We are running at greater than 20% repurchases now, which basically means that every month, more than 20% of the people that previously bought will continue to buy, and that is compounding and growing. So we are establishing a very firm base of people that are using and continue to use K-Fibre, and we're also starting to find out that one of the biggest marketing tools we had is just word of mouth. We're spending a little bit of money on marketing, and one of the reasons for that is currently at the moment, marketing is cheap. The magazines that you can see there are all top-end magazines. They're all aimed squarely at women and women's health. So we've managed to get around $200,000 worth of marketing this year for around $30,000. But given that we will be in front of 2 million people by August, and a lot of that is a very focused marketing campaign, then we're anticipating quite a sharp rise in sales. So capital structure proposed. As previously stated, we are selling 7.5 million shares at 20% for the placement. This placement plus original shareholder buy-in will give us $2.1 million. That is $1 million for the final payment for the assets and $1 million in cash. This slide gives the source of funds and the application of funds. It also gives you the asset revaluation reserve and total equity of the company. The valuation of the buy-in is 4.4 million, but total equity is 7.7 million. This is just hard numbers. The blue sky, the marketing, the sales are not included in here, obviously. The total combined market size is $534 billion, and we are focused in 3 or 4 of those markets in quite an intent way. We also are patented for our claims, we're FDA accredited, and we're 100% natural and chemical-free processing. We're hitting the sweet spots for people that want natural, we're hitting the sweet spots for people that want science-based, and we're hitting the sweet spots for people that actually want results. That is the opportunity to invest in HFS and to purchase KFSU assets. If you need to contact us for more information, please contact myself, Gordon Edwards, with these details, or Richard Revlin. Confidential information and disclaimers. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to any questions you might have.
Thanks, Gordon. Presenting next is AUM Biosciences, a company on the forefront of disrupting the drug development process in oncology. AUM has the objective of delivering affordable targeted drugs across a broad spectrum of cancers. Their innovative process and utilization of smart data gives them the edge needed to compete in the market of drug development. Here to give us insight into the opportunity is CEO Vishal Doshi.
Hello everybody, my name is Vishal Doshi. I'm the founder and CEO of AUM Biosciences. It is a pleasure to be presenting at the Health, Med and Technology Investor Showcase 2020. To give you a quick snapshot about who AUM Biosciences is, we are a clinical stage oncology company with 2 technology portfolio of first-in-class novel targets. We have an in-house AI drug discovery utilizing proprietary ligand design platform through a partnership with an AI company called Cyclica Inc. Our key attributes include over 100 years of drug development track record with a successful and an impeccable track record of early stage asset selection. Our value inflection point expected for the organization is less than 3 years' time. We have a diversified portfolio with multiple shots on goal, and we have a strong IP until 2033 with the potential to extend it further as well. The 2 technologies that we have, the first one comprises of MYC inhibition, which is a first-in-class novel target with a US IND in place for our lead program, a phase 2 ready asset expected to have an inflection point by 2022. And we are developing that in multiple indications, including colorectal cancer. In addition to that, we have identified some undisclosed preclinical programs with monotherapy efficacy and blood-brain barrier penetration. The second technology that we have is multiple kinase inhibition. And this is a first-in-class triple kinase inhibition technology and set of molecules that we have. Expected to have a US IND submission by Q2 2021, and as a clear pathway towards an orphan drug designation with a huge market opportunity and a significant unmet medical need. This is a quick snapshot of our portfolio, as I mentioned to you earlier. Something to note on this slide is the upcoming milestones for our MINC inhibitor program, where we are expecting a phase 1 data readout in July 2020, which makes us phase 2 ready as soon as possible. In addition to that, we have our in-house AI drug discovery programs through a project called Project Nexus, which is utilizing ligand design and ligand express platforms to identify up to 5 first-in-class protein targets. This is a partnership that we are very, very excited about, and it really positions AUM Biosciences for the future of drug development and drug discovery. A quick background about the track record that we bring on the table. The founders of the company were involved in a very unique special purpose vehicle model with a Japanese company called Recce Pharmaceuticals, where we had clearly executed and successfully exited a project finance model of approximately $145 million and developing close to 6 oncology drugs and advancing close to 3 oncology drugs all the way until clinical proof of concept. This is a quick snapshot about our team. As you can see from the slide, the whole team has a strong management expertise that we bring on the table, has over 50 plus INDs, and has been responsible for development and commercialization of major blockbuster drugs. Some of the key elements of our business, they include 4 components. First is the modality. We focus on small molecules, and we execute that through our partnerships that we have in place with our drugs that we acquire from various companies as well. The key therapeutic area of focus for us is oncology, and we partner with some major universities globally to further our research into this therapeutic area as well. One of the key things that we focus on is process optimization and process innovation. As a result of which we have a mandate which includes no biomarker, no drug principle, and to fulfill that, we have partnered with some of the key research institutions and other universities to deliver on our promise as well. We also play a very important mandate on technology investments, and as a result of which we have partnered with Cyclica through a Project Nexus that we have internally. In the interest of time, I will be speaking about one program only today, and that is our first program, AUM001. The key problem that we are addressing for AUM001 is MNK phosphorylation. MNK phosphorylates EIF4E, a critical element of the RNA to protein translation machinery, and it thereby promotes the translation of the oncogenic signaling pathways. The problem that emerges out of it is a significant amount of upstream resistance mechanisms. The solution that we have derived is a very selective, highly targeted MINC inhibitor that inhibits MINC, and it interferes with the translation of oncogenic signaling, including cell-resistant to upstream signaling pathway inhibitors. When we designed AUM001, we had developed that specifically to be the future of combination cancer therapies. We are developing that drug in combination with many other standard of care, which remains to be announced in the upcoming weeks and upcoming months as part of our phase 2 plan. This slide presents a unique differentiating characteristics for our AUM001 as compared to our closest competitor, Effector Therapeutics. As you can see from the slide, our drug AUM001 has very minimal off-target effects, which is expected to have oral QD, status is phase 2 ready, and has a very superior AUC, where a very high Cmax and double the half-life as compared to our competitors as well. The point to note over there is the tolerability of this drug has proved to be very good, and we have seen no grade 3 or higher AEs as compared to our competitors that have seen grade 3 AEs as well. This is a quick snapshot of all the clinical development that has been done till date. We have already completed a single ascending dose study, which was done in Singapore, and we have just finished our multiple ascending dose study, which puts us in a very unique position to be phase 2 ready as soon as possible. We have seen for both the single ascending dose study and the multiple ascending dose study that this drug is very well tolerated and has an outstanding safety profile where we have seen 0 treatment-related adverse events. The evaluation of PK and the PD measures are ongoing, and we expect to report that in the upcoming weeks as well. We have had a fantastic 2019, and we actually see 2020 to be a very, very exciting year for AUM Biosciences. Some of the key points that we have already achieved this year includes a non-dilutive funding, which has been awarded with one of the premier Singapore research institutions, and that will be announced very soon. We expect the phase 1 data to come out in June, July 2020, which is going to be a great value inflection point for AUM Biosciences as well. We are anticipating our FDA conversations to begin very soon in planning for our phase 2 study. And we are expecting to finish our IND enabling studies in the upcoming 12 months or so, preparing us for a solid phase 1 study. With that, once again, thank you very much for giving me an opportunity today. And if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on the CRISP platform, and I'll be happy to communicate with you further. Thank you.
Okay, well, welcome everyone to Wholesale Investors Health, Med and Tech panel session this afternoon. We have around 30 minutes and I have been joined by 4 very experienced life science executives. I'm going to ask each of them one initial question, and then as we move through the panel session, I have a couple of questions for each of them individually. So firstly, my name is Glenn Cross. I've spent most of my working life in the life sciences sector. I've worked for startups and multinationals, and my last 13 years of full-time work, I was the COO and then the CEO of AusBiotech, which is Australia's life science organisation with some 3,500 members. And currently I have my own investment and advisory company, and I sit on a number of boards of MedTech and biotech companies, and I'm involved with two venture funds. So I'm really looking forward to the session this afternoon. So firstly, can I please introduce Hsien-Hui Tong? If you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thanks very much, Glenn, and thanks for having me on this session. My name is Hsien-Hui. I think trying to pronounce my Chinese name is going to be a little bit difficult and challenging. I head venture investing for SGInnovate. SGInnovate is an early stage deep tech investor, wholly backed by the Singapore government. And areas of our investment focus are things that are definitely critical to the world. Healthcare and medical is definitely one of our core areas of focus, and we have made about 30 investments over the last 3 years in that particular sector. So I'm really looking forward to speaking a little bit more about our portfolio, what they do, as well as learning from everyone on this panel about life science. Thanks.
Great, thanks, HH. Our second panelist, who I know quite well, is Leslie Chong, and she's the MD and CEO of Imugene. Leslie.
Thank you. Thanks for allowing me to come on this panel. I think it's going to be quite interesting. So I am the CEO and Managing Director of a company called Imugene. We're squarely in the immuno-oncology space, meaning we really enact your immunity to fight against the particular kind of cancers. We have 2 platforms and about 4 programs. So I'm quite busy at the moment. And so I'm excited to talk about how COVID has affected or not affected us and how we're moving along.
Thanks, Leslie. Our next panelist is Joseph Mokanu, who is the managing partner at Verge Health Tech Fund.
Thanks, Glenn, and thanks everyone for having me here and for the opportunity. So I'm Joseph Mokanu. I started a seed stage health tech venture fund called Verge, and we invest globally, but at the very early stage, in companies that use technology to expand access, quality, and efficiency to healthcare, especially targeted towards emerging markets and within that emerging Asia. Started as an angel investor and realized that, really wanted to do this full time, as some of our early angel investments were doing really well. And between our angel and fund, we've now invested in 18 health tech companies, all at the seed stage.
Thanks, Joseph. And our final panelist is Damien Slizzers, Managing Director at Kobold Ventures. Damien.
Thanks, Glenn. I'm a patent attorney by training. I've been a patent attorney for 20 years, and I think my questions are going to reflect that. I've also been managing a portfolio of early stage life sciences companies for our family company for a number of years. And now we're looking to raise capital for Kobold Ventures to invest in early stage life sciences companies.
Thanks, Damien. Well, the first question that I'll get each of the panelists to address is obviously front of mind with all of us at the moment in these very unusual and challenging times. And that's basically, what's your outlook for the rest of this year and 2021 in terms of the impact COVID-19 has had on so many aspects of our life? And are you seeing any particular trends or issues emerging? So again, I'll just work down with the list. Would you like to take that first, Ajay?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Glenn. Our area of focus has always been deep tech. And ironically, and I'm not saying this in a facetious manner, but COVID-19 has actually helped to compress certain time to market for a lot of our companies. It has represented, unfortunately or fortunately, an opportunity for some of these MedTech companies in our portfolio to actually get to market much faster than they would have if they had followed the traditional route of going through the clinical trials and the long regulatory process to market. So I think for a lot of our MedTech companies that have expanded their portfolio to cater for some of the different aspects of testing or analysis of COVID-19, they're going to do extremely well. They are already doing very well, and they've had no problems raising funds. Some of our other sectors that we focus on, like mobility, have actually also seen tremendous traction, especially in autonomous delivery. Our companies in our portfolio, like Starship, have actually hit their annual projections for the next 2 years just in the first 3 months. So I think from a portfolio perspective, we are very satisfied with the performance. Of course, this is not something that we would wish on anyone. I don't think that it is something that we are happy about. But I think that from an investment perspective, there are definitely opportunities there.
Thanks, HH. I'll get back to you on one of those comments you made in the next round of questions, because I'm interested in particular the investment the investment environment. Same question to you, Leslie. You being more on the pharmaceutical and drug development side.
That's right. So most of my time is spent largely in the air. My mom says, Leslie lives in the air, because I'm usually out of the country for 6 months out of the year. And what COVID has done, in largely in a positive way, has grounded me in that, for lack of a better word, it's helped me organize, and it's also helped me really focus across all my programs. So now my development path is very clear. I'm quite focused. I'm very lean with my team about exactly what we need to do, such that when COVID allows us to open up across the travels or go into the medical center, we know exactly what to do. So it's made our vision much more clear, because I'm here on the ground and is able to be available for my team.
Excellent. Joseph, where are you based?
I'm based in Singapore.
Okay, so HH and yourself are both based in
Yeah,
Singapore.
we know each other from before.
Excellent. I Googled your website. I didn't know a lot of, but I couldn't really tell where you were based. So what about your thoughts on the impact of COVID-19 on the sector?
I think the key word is relevance. Are you relevant to COVID? Are you relevant to the new normal that's coming after this? And luckily for us, I mean, similar to HH and Leslie, you know, we have been, I hate to say the word benefit, but basically the changes that we've been waiting for in digitization and decentralization of healthcare that we've been waiting for 20 years, basically have been forced to happen now. And our portfolio is designed for this new normal, and coincidentally. And 7 of our 9 fund companies within our fund are relevant to COVID, and 3 are actually helping today. That being said, if you are not relevant to COVID or the situation going forward, it's going to be very difficult. And even within healthcare and life sciences, if you're in the middle of clinical trials and you had budgeted for this clinical trial development to take place this year and next, it's going to be really tough because trials are paused. And if you're doing something that is wholly dependent on the outcome of that trial, that's very, very difficult. If you're lucky to have completed it partially, then you can do some interim analysis, double down on the science, and really try to get as much out of that data with all this extra time that you have. But if you're not, then it's really, really difficult, and let alone any other sector that's been impacted. I think on a macro scale, it's hurting, and it's going to be difficult for the foreseeable future.
Thanks, Joseph. And Damien, are you based in Australia?
I am. I'm based in Melbourne.
Oh, excellent. What about your thoughts on COVID-19 and the impact?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the most interesting trends that I've seen in the last 4 or 5 years is, I mean, we're in the therapeutic space, and that's where we invest. And it's a very risky area. It takes a long time to get to a stage and a lot of capital to get to an exit and to seeing revenue. But there's some companies now that are generating revenue at an earlier stage by various means, and they're of interest to us because there's a bit of sustainability there to the model. A couple of those, Planet Innovation is a very well-known company that is not only a service business, but is also using that expertise in incubating essentially small companies that they see some upside to. And another company that's very similar to that is Synthesis Pharma in the drug discovery area. And I think those companies at least give you some fallback in terms of sustainability as opposed to that traditional early stage pharma model.
Yeah, and I'd agree with all of the comments. Certainly, what COVID-19 has done is made so many more people realise that in the end, it's your health that counts. We've seen countries nearly destroy economies to preserve the health of their people and their populations. And I think personally that we're going to see an increased emphasis on healthcare in the broad sense, and more specifically life sciences, MedTech and pharmaceutical development as we move forward. So I think for those of us in this sector, if anything has come out of this pandemic, it has been that we'll see hopefully an increased focus on our sector and our technologies. The only concern I have still is whether the politicians get it. I spent 13 years talking to politicians primarily in Australia, and so many of them here in Australia haven't got it. I think it's a bit different in Singapore. I've spent a bit of time up in Singapore, a little bit different in the US as well. Anyway, they're my thoughts. So I personally am excited about the future for our sector. So just going on to individual questions, again, I'll just work down through our list. HH, I was interested in your comment about investment not being and money, capital monies not being a real problem as you see it. What areas of focus is there in terms of technology and regions for your company?
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. And I think it has been alluded to by Joseph and Damien as well as Leslie on what are the areas that money is actually flowing towards. Definitely, like what you said, MedTech, healthcare is one sector that does not seem to be lacking in LP interest, in VC interest, PE interest, investor interest in general. We will maintain the focus on that particular sector. Obviously, we will continue with other aspects of digitization, mobility, quantum technology, because we have got to look a little bit further ahead of the curve. Our areas of focus, or I would probably say, we have got a global mandate to invest all over the world, because we view deep tech as being a global ecosystem and not just confined to any one country. We have investments in the US, Europe, India, and the only reason why we don't have investments in other parts of the world is not because we have excluded them from the scan, but we have sort of never been able to get the right price or the right stage of company in some of these other areas. But we're constantly looking for opportunities. Some of our companies have moved to Australia. They've raised funds from the likes of Kobold Ventures, some very reputable investors in Australia. And we are also looking to work with Cyro to see if there are any opportunities coming out of what they are doing in your part of the world. So I think we are not excluding any region from our scan.
Okay, thank you. And Leslie, we touched a little bit, Joseph mentioned some of the issues that we've had around clinical trials during this difficult time with lack of travel and mobility of people. How have you seen the last 6 months impacting in terms of what Imugene's doing, and also in terms of markets and capital raising?
So obviously, I think there has been quite a lot of impact on pharmaceutical and biotech companies squarely in the medical site, because a lot of those medical centers were foregoing cancer patients to make room for the COVID patients, which is the right thing to do. And just import and exports of products. So in our company, we have B-cell immunotherapies, which is a vaccine, a cancer vaccine. And we also have an oncolytic viral therapy. So you say the word virus, and it's just very interesting what happens there, because there's so many different levels of assurances and accreditation before you can get a drug into a certain company. And we're squarely in the US, and also now, because of COVID and what's happening in the US, unfortunately, we are moving a lot of our operations into Australia, which is great for the Australian economy, and also for Australians to take sort of center stage in the biotech market, which, we were just coming up, and you can tell by my accent, I'm from the US, originally from Genentech, which is possibly one of the largest biotech companies. I really wanted to bring that spirit and culture here. And so in light of COVID, we are being able to do that. So I'm quite excited in that respect, not because the virus is obviously reaping havoc on financial as well as other commerce and businesses. But I understand that in terms of marketing and investments, those are still ongoing. People are able to make important and very large deals via Zoom and other facilitating projects and platforms. So I think business is changing, but it might be changing for the better. So we're sparing the time that it takes us to travel to places, and we're being much more focused and lean about how we do business. So I think this change is a positive thing for our industry.
It's certainly a different scenario, isn't it? I was talking to a stockbroking firm here in Melbourne about a week ago, and they were raising some money for one of the listed biotech companies in Australia, and they said they raised 20 million in 7 days via Zoom.
Yeah,
So
it's amazing.
we've never seen something like that happen before, to be a roadshow over a couple of weeks going around to all the capital cities in Australia. And so, yeah, we're amazing humans. We can adapt, can't we?
The adaptability, the creativity, and being resourceful is what humans are all about. So I think we're utilizing that to the fullest.
Thanks, Leslie. Joseph, I was really interested when I went on your website and looked at what your company's doing. There's not many investors down at seed stage. Tell us about why you chose to invest at that level, and a little bit about sort of the companies and opportunities you invest in.
Yeah, sure, happy to. It's kind of funny that you highlighted that there's not many investors in the space, and that's exactly why we're here. You know, we have a tremendously broadened amount of opportunities because of the paucity of investors here. And if you look at the global figures, about 3/4 of all health tech deals are Series A or later versus 40% across other industries. And so the question I had and I observed is, you know, how many good innovations die simply because they can't find the right investor? And you might be lucky in Silicon Valley or in London or somewhere else where you have a great amount of seed stage investors, but for the rest of the world, sadly, this is not the case. And, you know, it is difficult. The companies will take longer to develop. There are many more things that can go wrong. So we try to really, you know, like HH, we have a global mandate. So we do believe that the greatest innovations don't necessarily exist where the greatest needs are. So we basically look for solutions to really big and serious problems. And that's one really nice way that you can filter down the list significantly. If you're targeting one of the great non-communicable diseases or a massive point of inefficiency that is systemic across most health systems, if you're radically expanding the affordability of something, you know, cutting down costs by 10x, then that's really interesting, and that de-risks from a solution perspective quite greatly. But the most important thing in a seed stage startup is the team.
Yes.
You have to be doing it for the right reason. Startups are really hard. Healthcare startups are even harder. And it's going to be a decade of pain, likely, before you see any sort of light at the end of the tunnel. So you really have to, you know, do this for the right reason. But you also really need to have the right skill sets and team around you. So clinical, business, technical expertise and experience is paramount. And because you've got the whole globe to choose from, you can find complete teams or teams that are one step away from being complete. And then the last thing that we really do look for is, you know, are you really defendable? You know, do you have an edge? Is it proprietary IP? Is it a business model? Is it networks that you have? Is it data that you have that no one else has? And if those criteria are satisfied, and that's a pretty long list, and that funnels things down significantly, then, you know, we'll make an investment. And just as a bit of an idea of what the funnel is, we looked at over 2,000 companies in the past 2 years. Looked at about...
How many have you invested in out of the 2,000?
9.
9. Okay, that's it. Yeah, that's about a standard rate. 3 or 4 per thousand is what I've seen before. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Damien, you're starting a new fund, I gather, and having been a patent attorney for a number of years, I think we probably know the answer to the question, but I'm interested in your other observations. Just how important is patents and the patent process in life science companies?
Well, it's obviously critical, Glenn. It's one of the few ways you can protect your investment in that area. So having said that, I've seen a few examples where people have you know, tried to exploit other aspects of their technology to give them other forms of protection as well. And probably one of the more interesting ones of those is Recce Pharmaceuticals that works in the radioisotope space. And there the supply chain is a very critical aspect of the protection as well, and sort of cornering that supply chain gives them an edge, and to some extent a proprietary edge. So I guess the other point that I was going to make is that it's increasingly difficult to get broad claims in life sciences nowadays. They tend to be very narrow once you go through the patent process, and that's much more difficult than it was 5 or 10 years ago.
So if you can't get a patent, what's the best option to try and protect your technology?
Well, if it's too late and you're with that technology, regulatory exclusivity. So there's a few, every country, if you get a registered product, you get at least 5 years of protection. No one else can sell that product within that 5-year period. There's other aspects of that help you as well.
Excellent. We've got about 7 or 8 minutes left by my reckoning. I'm going to go off the agenda here a bit in terms of the questions that Wholesale Investor had drafted for us to talk about. I'm really interested, for those of us, and I gather now that I've met all of you, have been in the sector for some time. North America, and particularly the US, has been the centre of biotech and life sciences. Obviously, especially the Asian region has had more prominence in recent times, and Europe is still a big market. But based on what's happening in the US at the moment, do you see a shift at all globally? I'm very interested in the global environment. So do you see a shift globally away from North America, perhaps? And how do you think the many issues that they have there are going to impact? I'll ask Leslie that question first. What do you think, Leslie?
Well, I was really hoping that Melbourne, Victoria, would have behaved so that Australia could have opened up in full, because I think we could have gone full on with resurrecting business back up in full and draw the attention of not only students, but businesses. So I've already made the shift from my US sites basically to start up the Australian site as a backup. But I think we're really focused now on Australia because we simply don't know when US will be operating in full. We obviously have good relationship with some of the centers and hospital sites in the US. However, the infrastructure needs to be there before we'll fully engage. And I think Australia, this is a great opportunity for Australia to really rise above in the medical sector.
Thanks, Leslie. The question to both HH and Joseph, and perhaps you could also throw in your thoughts on the Asian region and in particular China. Again, where we're seeing a shift in dynamics there from a global geopolitical perspective. So, HH, your thoughts first.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and it's something that preoccupies us all, both as investors as well as SGInnovate being part of the government apparatus. I think it is abundantly clear that governments have realized that there's a necessity to have certain manufacturing, certain distribution capabilities in country rather than being able to outsource it to the most efficient place. We found that to our detriment when we realized that we did not have the mechanisms or the infrastructure to actually build something as simple as to manufacture something as simple as face masks, and had to actually set up an entire production line within less than a month in Singapore. So certain things at the almost at the medical device level, the most basic levels, a lot of countries are going to start to bring that in-house. China, obviously, based on conversations I've had with friends and the ecosystem over there, is that the government is extremely preoccupied about how this polarization of the world is going to take place. And while they've always had a strong push towards building a very strong medical biopharma industry in China, it is actually taken. There's been a much stronger push to ensure that they build their own titans of pharma in their country. So I think every country is going to start to relook at their own national prerogatives in this particular space.
Thank you. Joseph?
I think HH was quite articulate in outlining some of the concerns that we do see here. I do want to remind that Rome wasn't built in a day, and that we as humans tend to overestimate the amount of short-term change and underestimate the amount of long-term change. And it is clear that the poles are shifting. To the extent of that pole shifting, I'm personally not sure. I still think that a lot of the leading R&D does happen in North America. The top schools are still, unfortunately, in North America. And there is a short-term opportunity, as Leslie rightfully identified, to shift clinical trial activities outside of the US. And our own portfolio is looking at sites in Taiwan, Singapore, Korea, and well, even north of the border in Canada, to see whether there might be a way to accelerate things forward. And we'd love to also understand what is available in Australia. But the fact of the matter is that the Stanfords, the MITs, they're still in the US.
They'll still be there, won't they?
Yeah.
Thanks, Joseph. Damien, your thoughts?
Oh, I mean, there's a few aspects there. I think one of the things that I'm hearing in Melbourne is that China is becoming an increasingly attractive place for investment in terms of getting investment into Australia. Subject to all the political difficulties we might have, but it's less attractive as a market. It's a difficult market to enter. So in that sense, that's my comments on China. I don't know much about it, and certainly not as much as people in Singapore. But in terms of the US, I agree. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. I think it's still a very, very strong country, and particularly in this space.
Thank you. We've got a couple of minutes left, so I thought I'd just ask again. I'll go down through the panel list. Just a question on your general thoughts on the next 2 or 3 years. Are you optimistic? Are you less than optimistic? Are you excited? And any other final comments you'd like to make, starting with you, HH?
Yeah, thanks. Actually, I'm slightly pessimistic with regards to the global economy in the next couple of years at least. I don't think that we're going to get out of this COVID-19 slump for some time. And that's even given the assumption that mass testing and a vaccine is going to be found within the next 18 months. Which personally I doubt, but I may be wrong in that because I'm not that close to the market.
Thank you. Leslie? Also, Leslie, what are your thoughts on a vaccine, do you think?
Well, I'm quite close to it, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I know.
I have a lot of friends in the industry that's vastly working on candidates, and I used to work for some of those companies that are trying to generate a candidate. I think we've got a while. And then also upscaling, that manufacturing aspect of that's going to be huge. You not only have to develop a product, but you're going to have to make bulks for the whole entire world in a matter of within a year. That's just, it's a huge feat. So I will add on to what HH just said, but I'm a little bit optimistic, and I think I'm just optimistic in my bones. I think we've got great things ahead of us. I think we're learning and doing things differently. I think the economy will heal. As for my company, we've got 2 different products that are just about to go into cancer patients, and that's where the rubber hits the road, and to see how it acts in the human body. It's so exciting to me, and I think we can finally prove what we saw preclinically. So that's what keeps me going, that we're going to get this into humans and possibly have a cancer therapy that works really well in combination or alone with ease of manufacturing. So for me and my company, I'm quite positive about it. And personally, I'm a pretty positive person. I live in Australia. The weather is gorgeous, and we're looking like it's going well. Melbourne will soon behave, and we'll open up the whole country. And I think it's going to be business, not business as usual, but maybe better business moving forward.
Thanks, Leslie. Joseph?
I'm both pessimistic and optimistic, if that makes any sense. COVID was a catalyst for a lot of underlying social, economic, geopolitical challenges that are not going to be fixed overnight. At the same time, it's also given us an opportunity to pause and reflect and think about how we can start to address this. From an investing point of view, I think that focus is going to become more important than anything. And yeah, we'll see where it all goes.
Thank you. And your final thoughts, Damien?
Well, I'm pessimistic about the global economy. I don't think it's going to do very well over the next few years. But I'm optimistic in terms of the incentive for innovation. I think it's a world where we just need to innovate to keep things moving, and that's the space we're in. So yeah, I'm quite optimistic on that front.
Thank you. Well, I've moderated many panels, especially in my previous role at Oz Biotech, and this has been an excellent panel. I really appreciated working with you for this brief 30 or 40 minutes. We could have probably spent a lot more time on some of the key issues, but thank you again for helping us out with this panel today. Thank you.
Thanks,
Glenn.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thanks so much,
Thanks,
Glenn.
everyone.
Thanks, guys.
So thank you for joining us for the Health, Med and Technology Showcase. I am sure you enjoyed it. And once again, a big thank you to our panelists for participating in that session. The insights have been phenomenal. Now, what do we have coming up next? We do 2 massive conferences every year. The first one is Emergence. This year we had up to nearly 2,000 people across 3 days coming in from all sorts of different countries to come and participate. Obviously, this year we're going to be doing it online. Now, the second big event that we do is Venture and Capital. Now, the actual inspiration behind Venture and Capital is really quite simple. If you think about it, every bit of innovation, I said the theme line for it is empowering ambition and innovation, right? The reason why that's so important is because the meeting of opportunity, the ventures, and also the capital is what creates a spark for everything. This is what we're built upon. This is what this entire ecosystem is built upon. This is what you as an investor are actually looking for opportunities. So Venture and Capital will be the biggest virtual showcase that we do this year, and we're doing it in partnership with AusBiz and a range of other partners, because this is about creating as much visibility for this ecosystem as possible, because we've got the eyeballs to do it. We will have over 2,000 investors tuning into the Venture and Capital event. For you as participating in this event, we're going to automatically have you subscribe to it so that you can come and join us for it. It's super important for us to provide opportunities like this. There will obviously be panel sessions, guest speakers, keynotes from leaders actually in this area. And across 2 days, we're going to have over 30 opportunities. The first day is going to be July 30th. We'll make the second date available known to you shortly. But 2 days, 30 opportunities altogether. There's probably going to be anywhere from 25 to 30 panelists and guest speakers and so forth. As I said, this is about us doing every single thing we can to provide you with opportunities, education, and information for how you are looking to invest going forward in this space, but also giving you insights as to what the actual leaders are thinking, and also what's happening in the minds of the CEOs that are actually driving the innovation in this area. Thank you again for joining. We look forward to seeing you at Venture and Capital. Have a great afternoon.